Shack fires have once again left tragedy in their wake, this time claiming the lives of young children in Soweto's Mountain View occupation. Every winter, flames rob the poor of life, dignity and what little they own. Activists argue that this is not misfortune but structural neglect and the consequences of a state that has criminalised poverty and failed to provide safe, habitable shelter. Joining us now is Thapelo Mohapi, General Secretary of Abahlali, baseMjondolo. Thapelo, it's always good to speak to you. Now, year after year, shack fires return with a cold. Why are we still accepting this as a normal in a democracy 30 years on?
Yes, good afternoon, Hugo. Good afternoon to the viewers. Yes, it is unfortunate that the dignity of the poor and marginalized, particularly those who are living in shack settlements. I mean, we've had the father and two children dying in Mountain View in Bramfisher. We had the same issue of a 5-family dying in Pretoria. And prior to that, in Eguruleni, we had a generation of family dying in a shack fire. It speaks to the fact that the dignity of those who live in informal settlements, the poor and marginalized, is not recognized by the government of the day. When you go to the informal settlements, there are no services, there's lack of water. When people try to even stop the fire using their buckets, it doesn't get anywhere. And even the emergencies, when they provide services for people that are in the informal settlements, it is as if it's a by the way, let's do it. It's not as urgent as it may be in their most affluent areas. So it's very disappointed that in this day and age, 30 years of democracy, we are still having people who have to die in this indignified way in the informal settlements.
Thapelo, I'm keen to know the kind of engagement that Abahlali has had with local or national government. Are they listening or suppressing your various requests?
Well, for years, Hugo, we've been trying to get an ear from the governments, particularly in this province where we are national government. Not so long ago, we've had a discussion with disaster management at national level, because we have, as people who are living in shack settlements, you see, the problem is when you think that people who are living in informal settlements do not have solutions, rather, of the problems that they are facing. We want the municipality to give us a plan in as far as prior disaster happening, to be active, to be proactive for disasters, because we already know that shack fires take place during winter, where people are trying to keep themselves warm. Sometimes people forget because they don't have access to the electricity. They light a candle, and sometimes some people leave children in the house alone. And these things happen because we are human beings and because we are living under these conditions that we are living under. And we are saying that at this point in time that government must provide access of land so that there is reblocking, that shacks do not become congested, where you have a shack settlements that got bent, where more than 150 people lost their homes in Takota, in Spingo recently. So these things have been spoken to government, that let's have a plan in pre-disaster, during disaster, and after disaster. The reason why we have 5 flood victims today who are being evicted is because the government did not have a proper plan when it comes to disasters, whether it's floods or it's the fire. We are trying, by all means, we are engaging. We have what is called the people's plan that we are producing to government. And because we are saying that because the government takes forever to get to the people on the ground, we want to have stewards, foot soldiers in communities who are trained on disasters, so that they give early warnings to the people, so that people vacate or assist those who are trapped during these times, because we don't want to be passive recipients of services from government. We want to help government to resolve these issues. I think it's enough now that people are dying in this nature, in this very tragic way of fires and disasters. Floods.
So I like that you're talking about being proactive and not waiting for government to act. So let's talk a little bit more about this people's plan that you speak of. What does it seek to address?
Well, it speaks about human settlements in days of climate change, but it also speaks about these issues that we are speaking about of fires that have killed many people recently. We talk about the one in Pretoria, we talk about the Mountain View, but in Durban also in some place there was one person who was killed in a few weeks ago. So we are saying to government rather than, because we can see that the response in terms of emergency takes time. We want young people who will be trained on disaster management, so that when those who are coming from municipalities to come and assist those who are either trapped or either washed away by floods, there are already people who are assisting on the ground. People are doing this currently, but they do not have the skills and or the know-how to actually save people. So we are saying, therefore, government must come on board, work with us. It's a document that is out there. We must applaud, by the way, because we should not be always complaining, that the eThekwini municipality has taken the plan and put it in its IDP. We are hoping that it's going to be implemented, that it's not just a box ticking exercise, but we want people on the ground to actually assist each other. We want informal settlements to have an assembly area. Whenever there's a fire, there must be early warnings. And whenever these early warnings are taking place, there must be people who are able to assemble people in the assembly area where people are going to be safe. And I think we've lost many lives now, that we must act as people who are living in informal settlements. And I know what it's like when you lose everything in the informal settlement, given my previous experience. So it is very difficult. And I feel very sorry for the people who have lost their loved one at this point in time. But the most important thing, Hugo, is that once you realize that there are people who are living in informal settlement, human beings, human lives, that their lives count as just as anyone else in this country. They are citizens as anyone in this country, and services must be provided. There must be fire hydrants, there must be access to water, there must be access to roads, there must be access to roads so that emergency services can get easily. Sometimes I feel sorry for government officials from the emergency services, because it's not even difficult. It's so difficult to even distinguish fire because of the congestion of the informal settlements. We are saying that in order for that to happen smoothly, there must be reblocking. Those shacks that are congested, they must be moved in certain areas, and people, so that whenever there's an ambulance and any other emergencies, can get access to the informal settlements.
Final thoughts, Thapelo, and that speaks to your experience as an informal shack dweller, which you talked about. How difficult is it, or what are some of the processes? I mean, when the ordinary person starts to think about constructing a home or building a shack, one of the challenges that always emanate year in, year out is that there are no fire guards. Is this a practical step that can be taken when shacks are being built, or is that not even a possible conversation?
Look, Hugo, in most cases, when people start building shacks, it's because people are doing it out of desperation. People do not have homes. They've come to the city to look for better opportunities. And when they look for these better opportunities, they have to have a place where they can reside. And unfortunately, they will erect shacks because there's no land that is available. There's no preparedness for the urbanization by the government of the day, and therefore people start building in places where they are flood prone to flood, and or else they build shacks in a congested way. Of course, Hugo, we must not forget the elements of shack farming, because there are those people who are elites, who don't live in shack settlements, who build shacks so that they can rent them out. And those people are a problem in most cases. And in most cases, when disaster management comes to give material to people who are residing in informal settlement, these are the very gatekeepers who don't want people to build their own structures because they benefit out of this. There are many people, or some of them, senior officials of the municipalities who benefit out of this very problematic way of living. So people build these shacks in the way that they are doing because out of desperation, they want to be closer to the city. They're thinking around the fact that this is a flood-prone area, or whenever there's an emergency, what's going to happen? It is not there. It's just an issue of desperation. In my case, when I lost everything, where I live, it's a very difficult situation because what you think of is either you think about your belongings, your ID and everything. And sometimes people who live in informal settlement have to have their IDs on their pockets all the time. And of course, you have to balance the two between the lives because we have kids, and you wonder where are your children when this happens. So it's a very desperate, difficult psychologically for us, and it stays there. And we are saying that government must not only think about providing, material, building material, and so forth, but they must also provide psychological help because it's a trauma to lose everything that you have.
Very quickly, Thapelo, before we let you go, you've certainly given some advice to government. What is your advice to those individuals that still reside in shacks at the moment and some who are members of Abahlali baseMjondolo?
Yes, there is a video that has been made by our President Muzigote, calling on our people and saying that we understand the situation that they live under. And we are saying that those who are keeping themselves warm during this time, they must take extra caution that they, distinguish the fire before they go to sleep. Those who have candles, they must also, make sure that they are in a safe place, that when the candle doesn't fall next to the plank that the shack is made of. And that there must be people who are on the ground who are able to give early warnings whenever there's a fire. We understand that this is an indignified way of living, but at this point in time, as we engage with the government of cooperative governance, as well as the human settlements, to actually start the upgrading of informal settlements and reblock informal settlement and develop informal settlement. We know that government will not be able to meet the need for housing. There are about, in eThekwini alone, 300,000 backlog of housing. So we are saying government must develop and put incremental services now in terms of the UISP policy that let's start now giving people services and reblocking the informal settlements so that our people do not continue to live under these conditions and lose their lives in the process.
Thapelo Mohapi, General Secretary of Abahlali baseMjondolo, always good to speak to you. And he's talked about a massive backlog in eThekwini of accommodation, as many as 300,000 sitting on that waiting list.